Hello builders, and welcome back to the World Zoo project, a giant zoo where I am trying to fit a habitat for every species in the game. And in today's video I have for you the Himalayan brown bears. The fourth bear going into our Asian section of the zoo, with one more to go after this being the panda. And before we get into building, let me just say if you want to see this zoo being built live, check me out over on Twitch, link to that in the description down below. And leave a like, comment, subscribe, do all those YouTuber things. But enough of that, let's get on to the building now, shall we? We start off the build as we usually do with creating a guest viewing area, specifically more around the sleeping area for the animals. I usually like to create a basic template for a wall and then copy paste that wall around on the grid. It helps save a little bit of time while keeping everything a little more uniform. Afterwards, I can always go and add in a few extra details here and there, which we will later. As for the sleeping area for the bears, what would be better for them than a nice cozy cave to call home? We'll be using rocks and mulch to create the cave, as you can see, and we'll be filling it with some little goodies for the bears, such as a little stone table and some wooden chairs and some little sleeping piles of leaves for them. While building these caves for my animals, I'll usually use the grid wall pieces in the back just as a framework, making it easier to put the rocks on the wall. In the end though, most of the time guests won't even be able to see the grid pieces. But that's okay, they're there just to make building a little bit easier for yours truly. And here is a friendly building tip for you. When using these stalactite pieces and you want to have a little cave ceiling, I recommend putting them in before you put the roof in. Just have them hover roughly where you think the roof is going to go. That way you can move the camera around more freely and position them just right. And afterwards you then put in the rocks and bam, you got a nice little roof. You can always go in afterwards and just do a few micro adjustments here and there. But generally it's going to be a lot faster because you're not fiddling with the camera in those tight spaces, which can always make building a little bit more of a nightmare. And when decorating your interiors, again, the same rule applies. Make sure not to put the roof on until you're happy with how it looks on the interior. It will save you a lot of hassle when you're not trying to get the camera out of the roof when you're building. It can be very annoying. Although occasionally I forget things, which I did in this case with the lamps, but hey, that's okay. We can always continue to build and add stuff even after you think you're done. I always love to go back to my old builds and add little bits to them that just improve their quality. After all, with every build, you just get more experience, and you can take that experience to some past builds and just improve on their designs a little bit. And now you are probably wondering what I am building at this very moment. Well, this is kind of a weirdly shaped habitat. I basically painted myself into a corner here, but this is generally just going to be another viewing area. However, I also needed to incorporate a way for guests to get into my petting zoo, as I had originally planned this to be a connecting point. But the space I had left for my bears was a little too small, so I had to have the habitat go over top of the path. I ended up cutting out a lot of the footage of me playing around with this path. In the end, I ultimately just decided to create an underground path and then having a small side section where guests can walk up and look at the bears from this upper angle. It ends up creating a very weirdly shaped habitat, but overall I was quite happy with how it is. I'm always loving pushing the boundaries of how I can do these habitats. I generally don't like things being simple shaped. I always like them being intricate and weirdly detailed, and the more weird it is the better, because nature is very rarely simple. And I suppose that brings me to my philosophy for when I play these building games. I always like to replicate nature as much as I possibly can. Although there are always some limitations in building games and in zoos, even for this video game zoo, but I do try my best to replicate nature whenever I get the chance. Are all my habitats exactly how they would be for the animals in the wild? Perhaps not, but at least they aesthetically look very nice, and I try to make them as wild as I can. Now, I am trying to save a little bit of time in this video, so there's going to be a few parts I edit out. In this case, I'm not going to show the creation of the tunnel that connects to the petting zoo area, as that's not really too relevant to this build as it is. There are usually a lot of little things like that that add a little bit extra to the park, but overall are not that relevant to these videos. The main focus for these builds is the habitats themselves, so you'll just have to live without it. But hey, if you want to see how that tunnel turned out, why don't you give me a little follow over on Twitch and I will show you that tunnel. There, snuck in a little bit of self-promotion. Oh yeah, wait, am I still recording? No, what? It wouldn't be one of my builds without, of course, a big old waterfall in it. I always love stacking these waterfall pieces. Oh, they look so nice when you get it just right, especially when you want a waterfall on the edge of a cliff. And when you decorate with these rocks, oh, that is just top tier waterfall quality right there, if I do say so myself. And now we are going to add in a rock ramp so that the bears can then access the rest of the habitat. Like I said, this is going to be a weirdly shaped habitat. We have some cliffs, some valleys, a nice little pond for the bears. We got everything they could ever want in the wild right here at home for them. And a added feature for the guests when they are entering and leaving the petting zoo is they might get a chance to see the bears swimming in the little pond with this nice underwater viewing area. After all, what's the point of a zoo if you can't see the animals enjoying themselves having a little swim once in a while? And don't worry about the shoddy rock work that is on top of this tunnel. Right now I am focusing more on the side and the bottom. The whole top bit will be covered up later with some terrain and, well, more rocks to make it look more like a mountain. Now let's take a side step from rocks for a moment and get the barriers built in. These are more copy-paste barriers from what we had done previously with the other bear habitats, as I want them all to be roughly linked. Once that's complete, we will then begin the rock work. So let's sit back, enjoy a little bit of nice music, and rock out with some literal rocks. Did that sound as cheesy as I think it did? I think it did, but I'm going to leave it in anyways, because why not? I love rocks, so let's go. hope you enjoyed chilling out for a little bit and just watching some lovely rock placement. Something about putting rocks down just always calms me down after a long work week, and I just love doing that in the zoo. So hopefully you enjoyed it as much as I loved creating it. Now we will finish off with just a few extra little rocks here and there just to add in a little bit of detail, and then from there we will start on with the terrain painting. Usually when I am terrain painting, I will start with a broad stroke of just the green grass, and then from there I will start adding in the details, usually trying to remove the grass where I think the animals or the keepers will be going in and walking a lot. That way it simulates that the grass is being trampled upon. Now I do start doing some plant work here, then quickly transition to doing the moss. The moss is always a key part of these builds as it adds a little bit of detail and texture to the habitat, which is desperately needed, as right now all that there is rocks. As much as I love rocks, they can't hold a habitat together on their own, so you need to layer it all together. You add the rocks in, the moss, and then you add the trees, and then you come in with all the little bushes afterwards. Although quickly after doing the moss, I decide before we get too detailed with the plants, I need to get in some climbing frames for the bears to get up on. Now this one is going to be a little bit different from some of the other bear habitats I've done for the Asian section. For the other three bear species, being the sun bear, the sloth bear, and the Formosan black bear, I had created little tree houses where they could come and sleep in the top of the climbing frames. However, these chunky bears are a little bit bigger than the other three, so I decided to leave the tops of this build completely open and instead let the bears sleep underneath it if they so choose. But they can still climb up top and get a good view of those sneaky little guests on the other side of the glass. A relatively simple shape for a climbing frame, but these are relatively simple, cute, fluffy bears. Okay, well maybe cute and fluffy, but not ones you want to pet. Anyways, now that the shape is done, we just come in and add in a few little extra details, and a little bit later I will be adding some trees to replace some of those columns. And to help the bears navigate the rest of the habitat, as we do have a couple cliffs here and there, I'm going to add in some more logs that the bears can then climb on to get around in case they don't want to just walk up and down this nice lovely hill. Either way, there's lots of ways for the bears to get around the habitat. Now I'm sure you're sick and tired of my voice already, so let's have another little montage of building, but this time adding in the plants to make this into a proper forest for the bears. So sit back, relax, and let's enjoy bringing this habitat to life for a bit. Ah, look at that. The whole habitat is coming to life, quite literally, with all that beautiful greenery. Ah, I love seeing this part of the build come together as all the foundations we put in with the rock and the moss and the walls and all that just come together, and it's done. Well, speaking of being done, I guess this video is nearly done too. So let's do a proper outro, and then we will end this video with a cinematic route tour where you can see the final result of our build. So if you liked this video, why don't you do the thing you do when you like something and hit that like button. And while you're at it and hitting buttons, why don't you leave a comment and click that post button and click that subscribe button. So many buttons to hit that all help out the channel. Or if you didn't like it, then that's fine too. You can just walk away. Don't hit that dislike button. Nope, don't do that one. That's one button you shouldn't touch. But at the same time, you have to ask yourself, if you watch to the end of the video, maybe you should just hit that like button. Because obviously you like it enough to watch it all. That's some solid logic for you. And you know what else is logical? Checking me out over on Twitch, because if you like this video enough, you should probably come watch me live, because I enjoy building this zoo over on my Twitch channel, along with some other building projects once in a while as well. Okay, that's enough self-promotion. Let's get on to what everyone wants to see. Everyone wants to see the end result, that cinematic road tour for this habitat. So builders, I hope you have an amazing day. Goodbye.